Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. I hope everyone is doing well out there this morning and having a fantastic start to your Saturday. Great start to your weekend. Here to give you some updated information on what's going to happen weather-wise for your Saturday. We'll even extend this a little bit into our Sunday for certain areas of the country, and we'll break it down in great detail, just like we always do. The heavy topic will be what's going on out west with all the higher elevation snow, even some of those lower elevations getting a little bit of snow. There's a little bit of energy in the northern plains we'll talk about, and there's a whole lot of rain in the eastern U.S. It was an absolute washout here at my house here in central South Carolina. Picked up even more rain than what they were forecast, almost 3 inches of rain, and most of it fell right at rush hour. So it was definitely wild amounts of rain in a very short amount of time for March 1st standards, that's for sure. But for a lot of these areas, it's clearing out, but we're still going to be left with a nasty kind of just wet, cloudy day, with maybe not a whole lot falling from the sky, but just still very damp, and the sun really not coming out to really dry things out. But we'll break it all down after we talk about today's forecast. We'll kind of shift gears and try to figure out what's going on going forward into the first several days of March. We're going to have a video this weekend. It's either going to be tonight or Sunday night. Really just completely just zeroing in on what's going to happen over the next several days. But we're going to provide a lot of good information at the second half of this video too, to try to get you guys a good idea of what's to come. I have not pumped out near as much content as I typically do this week, just with being sick, and I'm still dealing with sinus issues. Something is blooming or something here in South Carolina. Typically with the changing of seasons and sinuses and stuff like that, it doesn't hit me that hard. I typically get hit with it one time, but it's very fleeting, like doesn't even last an entire day. But if you see me sneeze, you see my face kind of snare up in this video at all, it's probably because I'm trying to fight a sneeze. I feel perfectly fine, just sneezing like crazy. So anyways, we're going to break it all down for you folks, get you guys covered on what's to come. And I do see a lot of energy coming up here in the next several days. We just got to figure out what that means. So if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like, and if anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. And like I said, thank you for being patient this week with not as much content in the evenings coming out. We're going to put the foot on the gas here in the coming days and try to figure out what's to come. So let's get rocking and rolling. So we got a lot of rain flying around across the mid-Atlantic. You're waking up to a washout for your Saturday morning. No real thunderstorms out there, but it's still pretty chilly for certain areas. You know, it's pretty warm as far as winter weather. Now, it's still a pretty chilly rain, but it's not cold enough for really any winter weather. Still an above average temperature morning across the Northeast. So you really got to get way up in there in higher elevations to see any kind of wintry weather, like in the interior Northeast. And really, it's probably just in the form of maybe some sleet, maybe a little bit of freezing rain, but it's not that big of a deal, to be honest with you. So just be aware of that, but you're going to be dealing with a lot of rain for basically your entire Saturday or Saturday night from most of the Northeast. We'll talk more details on that here in a second. Could get some thunderstorms in Florida today. As of now, not expecting widespread severe weather, but we will kind of zoom into Florida when we get to that section of the video. And you see the pink up here in North and South Dakota. We do have some freezing rain falling out there. This is kind of round one. There will be a second round that comes in later this weekend, which is why you do have winter storm warnings up and even some winter weather advisories up for areas of Montana, North Dakota, where some appreciable winter weather could fall and accumulate in these areas, several inches of snow. And then you continue just to see these rounds of, it's like a convective feed, meaning, I mean, some of these could, you could get a rumble of thunder, a flash of lightning out here, but you're certainly getting some heavy snow where it is snowing, heavy rain where it's raining. But even in some of these lower elevations, you're kind of switching back and forth from snow to rain. Let me know if you're in the Seattle region, what you've seen in that area, Medford, Eugene, Portland, these lower elevation regions, kind of west of the Cascades and east of the coastal range. I would love to know what you're actually seeing. But the Sierra Nevada, it's snowing like crazy out here, and this cold front continues to slowly work through the western U.S. Areas like Salt Lake City will see some snow later on today too. You'll switch from rain to snow, potentially pretty dramatically so. This portion of the country is pretty quiet. Where we need the rain, we actually have a fire danger in areas of the southern plains. We'll talk about that here in a second. The Storm Prediction Center, just a general risk of thunderstorms out here. No real severe weather expected, but where you see the light green colors, we could get some thunderstorms. And folks, like I said, like when this front especially moves through, which will move right through this green area right here, we could get some thunder snow in these areas. We really could. I mean, Salt Lake City could see some thunder snow. I'm not saying that's exactly what's going to happen, but we could definitely, it's going to be a convective element to it with a pretty strong cold front. Could have a risk of some thunderstorms along the Carolina and Georgia coastline, and certainly in the entire state of Florida runs a risk of some thunderstorms today, and up against the western coastline could see some storms too with that convective feed. It continues to be shocking to me, to be honest, which, I would say yesterday was more shocking. We had the same situation. The probability of rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance is less than 5%, folks. I was seeing flooding at my house yesterday. So, but they're not expecting anything too crazy. It's not a knock on the experts at the National Weather Service. But as of right now, it's below 5%, so it's not showing up in the lower 48 map. So I don't think flash flooding will be a big threat today. Watches, warnings, and advisories. We do have a lot of dense fog advisories because we've gotten so much rain and you're waking up to really damp conditions, just a whole lot of moist air in the atmosphere, creating a lot of fog across the deep south, all the way up areas of the Mississippi Valley. And then check this out. You see all this hot pink color right here, this kind of bright pink color on your screen. That is red flag warnings. We basically have a fire danger in this area. It's going to be very dry. The winds are going to pick up later this afternoon, this evening. So once again, please be aware of any kind of wildfires breaking loose in this region. We really need the rain. Unfortunately, we're already getting into these fire danger risk. And, typically it's feast or famine out here. Now, a lot of times it's famine when it comes into the plains. You guys will go weeks, months without rain sometimes. And unfortunately, it's getting very dry in these areas. But we do have some sneaky winter storm warnings up for 3 counties in Montana and a few counties here in North Dakota. So we are expecting several inches of snow, and we do have some freezing rain falling where these purple counties are. So that's some winter weather advisories. So it's kind of round 1 making its way through now. Round 2 will make its way in later this weekend. Winter storm warnings in the pink, winter weather advisories in that purple color. Then you got the high wind warnings in the mustard color. And then you see these brown counties, that's high wind watches. Even some blizzard warnings continue to be in effect. All out blizzard in the Sierra Nevada. I saw where I think somewhere it had a wind gust of 165 miles per hour. I mean, that's like Category 4, Category 5 hurricane status winds, guys. It's ridiculous, but it continues. You're right in the middle of it right now. We won't get as detailed out west as we have in the last couple videos, but we will provide you some details on this just because this is ongoing right now. You're starting to see some of these alerts being dropped off in the Pacific Northwest where things are calming down a little bit, but you will continue to see a feed of moisture. The Southeast today, still dealing with some pesky showers out there in Georgia and the Carolinas, but I think for the most part, this will begin to head on out. But we will get some thunderstorms along the panhandle of Florida, a risk throughout the morning, afternoon hours. And then later on this evening, we'll start to get some thunderstorms down here and kind of the central peninsula of Florida. Maybe some showers up against the Carolina coastline, even a thunderstorm is possible. And then we take it all the way into our Sunday morning, still dealing with some showers, some storms in the northern half of the peninsula of Florida. And then we make it all the way into our Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening. Almost some pop-up, like popcorn type showers like you would see in the summertime. Kind of popping up everywhere in the southeast, very possible. But a closer look at Florida today, guys. Don't let these storms catch you by surprise if you're vacationing down Florida or just live in Florida. Those thunderstorms kind of just firing up and kind of meandering around the same areas in the panhandle of Florida. Could get some big storms out in the Gulf of Mexico. But then we'll get the development of these storms right here in central Florida. Orlando, surrounding regions, kind of east to west. These storms could pop off a lot of rain. Almost kind of a summer type element to it. If you look at the temperatures kind of in this area, see what the temperatures look like. And yeah, I mean, it's going to warm into the upper 70s, low 80s. So it's definitely going to not feel like summer, but it'll certainly feel like spring out here in Florida. So almost like some kind of like summer, spring pop-ups up here for sure. So up here in the Northeast, like I said, if you hear me sneeze or mix up some words, I do apologize just with the sinuses. Hopefully I'm clear of this by the end of the weekend. Like I said, feel perfectly fine. Y'all don't worry. I know sometimes I will get some comments in there that says, Mitch, go to the doctor. You need to check if you got a life-threatening condition or anything like that, folks. I'm good. But you get until later this morning. Some rain is taken over. It's already taken over the areas of the mid-Atlantic. Rain falling pretty heavily across Delaware. New York City, rain will pretty much take over throughout the morning, throughout the afternoon hours. And as we are getting into later this afternoon, this evening, just a rainy afternoon, rainy evening. If you're out and about in the town, just make sure you bring your umbrella. And New York City up to Boston, the I-95 corridor through southern New England. Just a rainy, rainy night. Definitely not a lick of winter weather out here at all. And this will continue. It will get quite heavy along Long Island later this evening. And then you'll get a period of just very heavy rain. I wouldn't say very heavy, but pretty moderate to heavy rain in like southern New England around Boston, all the way up to the southern and southeast sections of New Hampshire. And the rain will really pick up overnight tonight after midnight, like in the coastal areas, the down east areas of Maine. And then you'll just get plain rain in like Nova Scotia, coastal kind of southern sections of New Brunswick in these areas as we clear on out. And then we can keep this going into our Sunday, and I do think we'll have a nicer Sunday for the Northeast. Rainfall between now, pretty much through the weekend, Sunday evening. I mean, you guys are already getting rain in the Delmarva, but another inch is possible. You'll probably total really close to an inch, probably 3/4 of an inch of rain in New York City. And I think if you're hugged up against the coastlines of southern New England, that's where you'll stand the best chance to see around an inch of rain. But Boston, probably 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of rain. And you're good for around a 1/2 inch along the coastal regions of Maine and New Hampshire, maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. It's less rain the more you kind of work yourself further northwest and west into the Northeast. So South Central U.S., calm morning out there, getting into about midday, still calm this afternoon. And then we get into later this evening. That's when you'll start to get some heavy snow moving into the Rockies of Colorado, where you have winter storm warnings up. We'll kind of zoom into that area here in a second. Snow will fall pretty heavily. Several inches to over a foot of snow in certain areas will pile up depending on elevation. Winds will really be picking up in these areas as we're getting into our Sunday morning. And then a low pressure will eventually eject across the middle of the country. But look at all this snow flying around as we're getting even deeper into our Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening, and there goes that low kind of ejecting across the middle of the plains as we are getting into our Sunday night into our Monday. Let's take a look at how much snow we could expect in Colorado. Kind of more of a zoomed out look at this that doesn't show towns and cities. But this is between now and Tuesday morning. So, areas like Denver, like even like the foothills, but Denver and kind of the higher populated areas just east of the Front Range and just the Rockies. Not expecting any snow from this setup. This is really confined to the Rockies, but several inches of snow to over a foot, depending on your location, all the way up into the ranges of Wyoming. You guys will certainly get some snow up here into the southern ranges right up here in this area. And if we take kind of a zoomed in look, Aspen, a good 8 to 14 inches of snow will fall between now and probably around, well, let's see. Okay, I looked at this wrong. Between now and around 5 p.m. Monday Mountain Time out here. Vail, 9 to 15 inches of snow. And just several inches of snow. It's not, a crazy huge event, but it's a pretty appreciable snow event for Colorado for sure. And then I want to talk about these winds in this region of the southern high plains, where we've had this fire risk and certainly a lot of wildfires. Like over 1 million acres have been burned, and they're still trying to get a containment on this. But check out how the winds increase as we start to get later into this afternoon. You start to get wind gusts, not sustained, but wind gusts pushing 30 to 40 miles per hour into the high plains right into here. Very windy conditions. We'll zoom into this a little bit more once we get to the western U.S. frame. But a lot of winds, a lot of strong winds, gusty winds, nothing that we saw kind of a few days ago. But you combine this with really dry conditions, low humidity, and yeah, this is not good for the fire danger and stuff like that. So please be aware of this. Winds will pick up later this afternoon. Could be gusty throughout the overnight hours. 30, 40, 45 mile per hour wind gusts isn't out the question in these areas right in here where we don't need it. It's one of the big reasons why we do have those red flag warnings. The north central U.S., excuse me, pretty quiet for the Great Lakes region, the upper Midwest. We will continue. The HRRR model is actually not doing a really good job at all with initiating this precipitation. But really, this is the only area to speak on. In fact, we'll just kind of honestly just take a closer look at this and what's going on right in here. If you live in the Great Lakes region, not meaning to leave you hanging, but there's not really anything going on today. But a closer look at my friends here in the Dakotas and the High Plains. The HRRR model not doing a good job at all in initiating this. But we will continue just to get winter weather throughout the day, especially in North Dakota, a little bit in the extreme northeast sections of Montana. I think that this freezing rain will eventually switch to snow in these northern counties, and then you'll kind of get a lull, a little bit of a break. And this is that front crashing through the central Rockies. And as this continues to move through, here comes another round. This is like late tonight, getting into this evening, later this evening, into the overnight hours. We start to get snow flying around outside of the Rockies in Montana. And this will be pretty heavy, guys. We could get 1 to 2 inch per hour rates in this precipitation right here. So if you're tuning in, you're living in these northern and northeast counties of Montana, northern counties of North Dakota, keep me updated with what you see up here. I would love to know. But this snow could fall pretty heavily. It's not very congealed. It'll be a little bit more congealed once you get into Canada, where there is widespread probably winter storm warnings, expecting an all-out winter storm. But we're taking it until about 2, 3 o'clock in the morning for our Sunday morning. I think this will be a quick hitter, but as we're kind of wrapping this up and getting into, our Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, kind of lets up. But this is a pretty quick hitting a winter storm. But in general, like I said, whatever's falling is going to fall pretty hard, pretty quick, pretty fast out here. So, nothing too crazy. I'm honestly surprised they have winter storm warnings out for this. But, I don't know y'all's criteria for snow up here, but in these far northern counties bordering like the Canadian-U.S. line, over a half a foot of snow is forecast. A few inches of snow south of that, 6-inch snowfall belt right in here. But you kind of combine that with some of this freezing rain that will fall a little bit earlier in the period, and it could be kind of messy, a little bit of an icy, snowy kind of setup, not just pure snow. And this will be some heavy, wet snow too, not a dry, powdery snow for the most part. So we move out west. We're continuing to get this feed of moisture, snowing like crazy in the Sierra Nevada, continues to snow in the Oregon and Washington Cascades, Northern California. This is the front right here. If you look very closely, you see this kind of weird line going through Nevada, going through areas of eastern Idaho, starting to move into northern Utah. If you notice, we're starting to get into about, I would say this is around lunchtime. I think this front's going to kind of blast through the Salt Lake City region and dramatically drop your temperatures. You'll probably switch to snow. You might get a heavy burst of snow. Hopefully we can see some video out the Salt Lake City region. Let me know if you live in that area. I would love to know. But this moves through. Temperatures drop, cold enough for snow. Could get a quick couple inches of snow, maybe more, maybe less. But if you notice, as we start to get, this is around like later this afternoon, this evening, you see just scattered about areas of blue. This is just burst of snow. Nothing really consolidated unless you live in the higher elevations that's squeezing out every bit of moisture in the atmosphere. But Sierra Nevada just getting that continuous feed of snow throughout the day, throughout the overnight hours, all the way into our Sunday. This front's making it all the way to Colorado, and then that's when the snow really picks up with there. But you got light to moderate snow kind of flying around central Nevada. And then by the time we were getting into our Sunday morning, things are starting to taper off a little bit, but you're still getting snow flying around in, areas of western Oregon, southwestern sections of Washington State. And this is continuing. Then it might get re-amped up again tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, as you're just getting scattered bursts of snow, probably with some windy conditions associated with this. And then we take it all the way to the middle of the night, Sunday night, all the way to the end of our weekend. And you continue just to get just scattered. And, it's cold. The snow levels are pretty low throughout the weekend. They might lower at certain times, then rise. But, I'm not going to pull up all those individual graphics. That took me forever yesterday morning. Just can't do that every single morning. But I wish that these graphics on Weatherbill showed all the towns and cities. It would make things so much easier. I'm really big on details. I think for my viewers that's been watching for quite some time probably know that. And I don't like just breezing over stuff and saying, hey, higher elevations in these areas could get over feet of snow, but sometimes that's all you can do. But the Olympic Mountains here going to continue to get blasted with heavy snow. This is between now and Tuesday morning. Coastal range will continue to pile up the snow. Areas that don't get near as much snow as like the Cascades here will continue to get a good bit. Areas like, I believe this is Medford down here, will probably have an opportunity to get a little bit more snow. I don't know what y'all have seen already, if any at all. Cascades right in here, Rocky Mountains over here. So a lot of snow will pile up, feet of snow in the Oregon Cascades for sure. And then we head on down here to California, and let's take a little bit closer look here. And that's the Sierra Nevada, quite obviously, right? And I always stress, one day I can't wait to go out here one day. Me and my wife were talking about it, and she was she was shocked at how quickly things change in elevation. We were watching the Weather Channel a little bit the other night, and Sacramento right into here, and you just drive. It's crazy how just a couple miles make a difference. Not saying the Sierra Nevada is a couple miles from Sacramento, but just when you're driving up, it's pretty wild how just 1,000 feet makes a huge difference as far as those snowfall totals. But Sierra Nevada, the colors are maxed out in here. I mean, you guys have already picked up a few feet of snow. Another several feet of snow is quite possible, and just Northern California getting hit too. So, and then you just take kind of a look at the Rockies here. Let's just take more of a zoomed out look. Just a lot of snow expected. I think Salt Lake City could squeeze in a few, maybe several inches of snow. So if you're a snow fan, you're probably going to get into some of this. Bighorn Mountains, a little bit of snow. What is the Laramie range? You guys are going to get probably several inches, over a foot of snow, depending on if you're like 8,000 to 10,000 feet up. Yellowstone National Park region, the ranges in here. One day I will learn all these ranges, guys. Hold me to that. I promise you. I can't wait till I do that. For some reason, I just remember this area because it's easy. Bighorn Mountains. I don't know. It just sticks like glue in my head. But there's so many individual ranges out here that I want to memorize. And I feel like as I do, then we'll probably pick up more viewers out here. But anyways, Central and Northern Rockies the common theme is we'll continue to get a lot of snow, guys. And really the highest winds between now and Monday morning is really confined to the central and even southern sections of the Rockies here. I mean, it's really just zoomed in right to this area. So basically from the Sierra Nevada, through Utah, northern Arizona, and even the southern half of Idaho, and certainly areas of Wyoming, and even the southern sections, extreme southern sections of Montana, Colorado, and northern New Mexico. These are where the highest winds will be, depending on your elevation, as much as 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. So very strong winds in this area right in here, so please be aware of that. So temperatures today, very mild in the northeast for the most part. Still a chilly day and just a raw day, but it's not cold enough. You don't really have any cold air source to make any of this really winter weather unless you live like on top of Mount Washington or some of the higher peaks of the Adirondacks or Green or White Mountains. But anyways, the southeast, warm in Florida. It's warming up, trying to warm up a little bit more in areas of the Carolinas, 60s possible, maybe some low 70s. And then warming up to well above average temperatures. I mean, Minneapolis, the Great Lakes region, getting into the 50s, even some 60s out there. Pretty ridiculous. Just not much of a winter. Really hasn't been. And then we get into the plains. Look how warm it's going to be. So these warmer temperatures, 70s and 80s, do not help at all with this fire danger here in the southern plains. So, temperatures aren't going to cooperate at all. Even though, if it's 20 degrees, if it's 70 degrees, if it's very, very dry, the fire's going to burn regardless. But in general, guys, I mean, you get it. Typically, when you have really warm temperatures, a lot of times it's associated in this area of the country with a pretty dry air mass. So that is the case here. Pretty cold out west. Below average temperatures. Where this cold front moves through, you're in certain areas, the temperatures will actually drop. Depending on where you live, but it's going to be pretty chilly. You might wake up to warmer temperatures than what you'll kind of be getting a little bit later this afternoon, depending on where this front moves through. So let's give you a little bit of information on what's to come. The setup coming up is pretty complex, just because there's multiple storm systems we were watching. We'll start this off around Sunday morning. There's our winter storm, very quick hitting winter storm in areas of the northern plains. This will kind of move on out, become a much more powerful, larger winter storm up into Canada, but we'll focus on the lower 48 here. At the same time, if you notice right here, we'll kind of back it up a little bit. There's a low coming off the front range and the Rockies of Colorado. Typically, this is how it works here, and with a trough digging down here, kind of like what we saw several days ago. This low is actually, in this upper trough, kind of diving into the western U.S., is actually helping to pull low-level moisture out of the Gulf of Mexico. So humidity is starting to rise in the deep south areas of eastern Texas, and what this is going to do is bring the opportunity for some severe weather, most likely as we are getting into our Monday. And there's the low pressure right into here. And by the time we get into our kind of midday, Monday afternoon, you see just areas of green right here. There is a low still right into here. It's just kind of weaker, but this is helping to bring that warm, moist air into the Gulf states, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi. This will probably bring some sort of severe weather threat for the Mississippi Valley. We still got to fine-tune those details. Right now, just a marginal risk. After that, guys, there's a kind of a boundary of cold air and warm air kind of right into here somewhere. Not super cold air, but pretty cold. You got a couple things going on. Looks like almost like a split flow. You got a low that kind of comes up here in this warmer air mass. It's just rain that kind of comes up as we are getting into our Monday into our Tuesday morning. This is all rain. No cold air to be found because it's way over here. All right, but this kind of cold air mass sort of misses the middle of the country, the southeast, and just kind of stays up in the Great Lakes region. At the same time, we got some other piece of energy right in here that kind of starts to bubble up here, but it looks like high pressure sort of suppresses it. And this is the European. We're getting into Wednesday. We got to watch this system because it is right up against cold air right here in this region. At the same time, we continue to get just areas of energy out west into the northern plains. For example, you kind of got two things going on right here as we're getting towards the end of this coming work week. We got energy right here in the middle of the country. We got energy right here, a more substantial low right in here. So the European says as we are getting into our Thursday afternoon, all of a sudden we're getting winter weather in areas of the Northeast. But I'm not talking about Boston, New York City on the Euro. I'm talking about like interior Northeast, maybe more so closer to the coastline once you get up into Maine. But we still got energy over here too. There's just a couple things going on. And then this tries to deepen, probably bring a little bit more cold air into the region. And then all of a sudden you get an all-out icing event based off the Euro next Thursday night into Friday morning. Then you got another, like a low pressure developing here, still cold air right into this region. Okay, this storm heads on off, but still affecting regions. And then we got another low here. So I know I keep bouncing back and saying that, but we're starting to get in the next Friday evening. Here comes another rain system. A low pressure right in here, cold air, not a lot of it, but right in here also. And this plows right into the Northeast. This is getting past 200 hours out, but brings another maybe interior winter weather event for the Northeast. Okay, there's a lot of crazy things going on. Yes, there has been chatter about cold air returning for like the middle portion of March. And guys, I'm not one of those people who say winter's over. In my mind, winter is left, but that doesn't mean I'm going to ignore it if it happens, guys. That's not what I mean at all. But I could certainly see a pattern that's favorable for some winter weather, even in the second half of March. Not really talking about the southeast, but the northeast. I mean, you still can get nor'easters, nor'easters that will produce winter weather all the way into April in the northeast. You can. So that's the European all the way through 10 days out. And what about the GFS? There goes that hefty winter storm up in Canada. Pretty long one too. Jeez, that's crazy. That's like over, that's a pretty huge winter storm up in Canada. And kind of the same deal. You get kind of this push of moisture. It could be severe weather as we're getting into Monday, but this is getting into Tuesday morning. There's kind of that initial push of moisture that's probably going to create a soggy period. I honestly think we're just kind of going to be stuck in sort of a more so a rainy than a sunnier pattern in areas of the eastern U.S. You might get some days in there that are pretty decent. Enjoy those days, but I think in general a lot of energy is going to be plaguing the eastern U.S. But there's the cold air sitting on top. It's mainly bottled up to the north. You can see it by the blue lines, just all staying up here. That's cold air. There comes that low right in here. It's cutting right across the Appalachian Mountains. We're getting into our Wednesday nights. Latest GFS, which I don't know, we just got to watch. Low pressure right in here Thursday afternoon. I mean, it's even too warm for snow or winter weather, even like in New Hampshire. Certainly too warm for it in southern New England. And then here comes the other storm right behind it, trying to bring some winter weather for areas of the north central U.S. And then cold air gets kind of involved into this in the northeast Friday morning. The timing's different, a little bit different. And I mean, in general, you got two storm systems from the Euro and the GFS, so there's agreement there. But cold air kind of crashes down to this, and all of a sudden you get a wintry mess. We certainly need to watch our friends in Atlantic Canada towards the end of the week with this system. A wintry mess as we kind of leave we'll get to the end of our work week. And then here comes that other low right here, right? Okay, this is moving in. If we can get this moving, I don't know what's going on here. Come on, there we go. And we're getting into around a week from today, a little punch of cold air right here behind this. And then all of a sudden, the tailwind of next weekend, this is next Sunday morning, all of a sudden we're getting a pretty stout shot of cold air, very, very quick shot of cold air all the way down to the south. And we got snow showers for our March 10th, flying around across the Ohio Valley. We got heavier snow for southern New England. And then we get another low that develops, and this is when it gets just kind of weird. Gets past 200 hours out. We're getting into around March 11th. But does, in general, just show some sort of signal there, guys, right? So, speaking of that first initial low, this is going to bring the opportunity for a moisture return. So, we'll start off tomorrow morning. Already moisture building into the Gulf states. You're going to wake up to some muggy conditions for your Sunday morning along the Gulf coastline. Dew points in the 60s. And then we get all the way into our Monday morning. Look at this moist sector building all the way up. I mean, dew points trying to creep into the 70s in South Texas. And then we start to get into our Monday afternoon. And the thermodynamics are certainly there. One thing you're lacking is shear, a lot of kinematics. So, you don't have a lot of favorable wind energy with this kind of setup. This supports a big severe weather threat. Once upon a time, models did symbolize a bigger severe weather threat several days ago, but that since then has dropped off. But there's enough thermodynamics, meaning there's enough moisture at the surface and just temperatures and things like that, enough higher CAPE levels to support at least a marginal severe weather threat. And sure enough, you got plenty of moisture, right? And this will continue to just kind of sit around. There's no big cold front to really sweep and clear out the air mass into this region. So if I have to watch this, we're getting into our Wednesday, and, like I said, no big cold front really clears out the atmosphere. So for our Monday, we do have a marginal risk of severe weather. They don't really have any alerts out. They have a discussion out for Tuesday and Wednesday, but, it's not worth getting into right now. Marginal risk for areas of Arkansas, Texas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma, even a very small section of Missouri and Mississippi. We'll continue to watch that. As far as that snow signal, okay, we'll go in 48-hour periods. And it starts to show up, could come in the form of 2 rounds. It starts to show up around Thursday morning. There's that signal for snow in the European ensemble. Okay? I mean, there is even a signal all the way down to Boston. Much more appreciable signal as we're getting to New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. Okay? And then that signal heads on off, and then we have another signal right behind it, like around the 10th and 11th of March, which is on out there, but that's a more substantial signal. So there's 2 signals there, right? Run at the end of this coming work week, or middle to end of this coming work week, and then another at the beginning of the week following, okay? And then let's go into the central portion of the country, okay? Don't want to ignore this area. All right. Let's go on and move it through your time. A little bit of a signal for some snow early next week for the upper Midwest. And then we have a signal for something right in here. Now, this isn't the same system that impacts the Northeast. Remember, I kept telling you there was 2 different systems. There's something right here for the middle of the plains showing up for it starts off late Thursday, maybe something for Denver, all the way through Nebraska, the plains, all the way through our Friday, all the way through our Saturday, all the way through our Sunday. There's a little bit of a signal there, okay? And then after that, there's no point in showing it. It gets past 10 days, which I swore an oath not to really talk about anything past 10 days until models can get a better handle of what's going on in the atmosphere. So, last thing, well, it won't be the last thing, but we're pretty much at the end of this, guys. This went on much longer than I anticipated. But I always get more detailed in these videos than what I plan to get. But obviously in the blue is lower pressure, folks. The oranges and yellows you see on the screen, that's higher pressure. So lower pressure is basically symbolizing where there's more energy, more precipitation in the atmosphere. So we're getting into this weekend. There goes that one low pressure right in here. This could do something for the Northeast if there's enough cold air. So this is getting a Thursday evening. There's that other low pressure right in here. Could bring some winter weather for the plains on the colder side of this, which would be up here. This low pressure just kind of just chills out there. This could be a more substantial storm system and eventually moves into the Northeast. Now, what's going to happen with it? Does it do like a transfer? I think as we get to the day 7 to 9 day period, this day 7 to 9 period, I think that this could be a more substantial storm system than what we see between now and then. So I really want to watch this system right into here. And this is getting into the tail end of next week. And I know that's pretty far out. A lot will change. But this has always been a period that I haven't really spoke on, but there's been some chatter on, and in my head, I've always thought mid-March was an area to watch. And this would line up with the teleconnections and what we're seeing. Has a low and a pretty good placement. How much cold air is around? And this is the European ensemble, so this is an average of where it likes the placement at its low. So we got to watch that, okay? And it gets stronger. I want to watch next weekend, late next weekend to early the week after, okay? And then this heads on off. What we do know between now and the next, I would say, let's just go 7 days, all right? This is getting into Sunday. You know, when you see these colors right in here, folks, I mean, that's anywhere from, you know, these colors right in here, anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees above average. Great Lakes region, I mean, folks, that's 20 to 25, 28 degrees above average Fahrenheit. Colder temperature conditions stays out west. Above average temperatures for the eastern and central U.S. continue. And then we start to get into about a week out. We'll extend this a little bit further into day 10. But if you notice, below average temperatures try to creep into the deep south as we're getting into next weekend. So I don't buy that much yet. But we'll continue to try to figure this one out. That's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in and muscling your way through that with me. God bless all y'all and have a fantastic day. God bless.